Hey everybody, Tyler with Meeple Mountain here, bringing you some more content reviews. Well, it is spooky season here in Nashville, Tennessee, and there's nothing more spooky, more Halloween themed than monsters, right? Well, one of my favorite classic monster games in the board game world is King of Tokyo. It's one of the games that got me into the hobby to begin with. And IELLO has been kind enough to give us a copy of their new reimagined version of King of Tokyo Duel, specifically for 2 players. This is a 2-player game. It has the same core components and feel and vibe as King of Tokyo, but with some new elements and intricacies and strategic depth to make those one-to-one player interactions incredibly interesting and engaging. There's a lot to learn here and a lot to enjoy, so let's get to the table and check out King of Tokyo Duel. Welcome to King of Tokyo Duel. In this 2-player specific game, you and your opponent will take on the role of these various monsters that are set in this kind of fictional universe. Of course, the visually similar to, but legally distinct from Godzilla, Gigasaur, and Mecha Dragon. For instance, there's some others as well, like Space Kingwin, the King, who's definitely not King Kong, Cyber Kitty, and Alienoid. Each of these alien monsters have their own unique asymmetric ability that gives them a little bit of flavor. They have their own unique set of health, and you'll be working on your main power board here, where you're basically going to be doing a tug of war over popularity and destruction. There's 3 ways that the game can be won. Over a series of rounds, players are going to be rolling their 6 dice and locking those dice in and scoring them. Just like Yahtzee, you can roll these dice up to 3 times, choosing what dice you want to keep and what dice you want to re-roll. At the end of your 3rd roll, the dice that you have are the dice that you're going to use. And those dice, with their various values, will affect things like your opponent's health, your health, the energy cubes that you may possess to buy power cards to make your character passively more interesting, more asymmetric, and more powerful, or gain one-time abilities that are very powerful. Or you may use those to adjust these 2 modifiers, pulling these 2 tokens towards yourself and away from your opponent. There again, favoritism or popularity, where you're the most beloved, fascinating monster in Tokyo, or you'll rule by fear, with causing the most destruction and mayhem on the board. And you can win in many of these different ways. The 3 ways that you'll win is if you ever deal enough damage to reduce your opponent's life to 0, they are gone. They are out of the game, and you will be victorious immediately. You also win if you get either the popularity or the destruction track all the way to the end of the track in the tug of war for yourself, or if you get both of the tokens in your spotlight zone. You'll notice these sections have 3 areas that are kind of lit up. Those are your spotlight zones. So if you ever get both of those all the way locked into your spotlight sections, you will also win the game. So you can see there's some intricacies here from the original game that add a layer of depth and strategy on how you want to act throughout the rounds. Rounds will continue like this, with you rolling and locking in your 6 dice until a player is victorious. Now, there's a few components to this, so let's go ahead and break them down and talk about them. First, let's talk about dice, what the faces do, what they mean, how they work in a little more detail, and then we'll talk about the cards, what they do, and these really awesome tokens that they're going to implement onto the board here in play. All right, let's talk about the bread and butter of King of Tokyo, which is the dice. We have our 6 main dice here on the right, the red dice. You'll roll these every round of the game. When you start your turn, you'll always roll these 6 die. You can roll them up to 3 times, choosing what items you want to lock in and set aside. So I might say on my 2nd roll, oh, I want to roll these guys again. I may then say, ooh, I actually want to change my strategy entirely, and I can re-roll any or all or none of the dice that I'd already previously locked in. But after that 3rd roll, I'm stuck. I'm locked in. I have to kind of resolve to the best of my ability or do what is shown on the dice kind of as they sit at that moment. So that's kind of how your normal turn will go. But once you have those locked in, you're good to go. Now, there's some white dice here. These are bonus dice, and you get them predominantly through buying cards. We're going to look at energy cards next. They give you special powers or abilities, and one of those may be the generation of a bonus die token. You can have a max of 2 of these anytime. You can never have more than 2 for your character. And at the start of your turn, before you roll your die, you can say, I want to spend 0, I want to spend 1, or I want to spend both of these tokens if I have them. And that will let you roll additional die. These would then factor into your roll. So you can roll up to 8 die, never more than 8 die. But these would be kind of used and then lost. You wouldn't have them in future turns. So you're always going to roll, though, the 6 main red die. And let's just kind of talk about the faces and the values of what they do. So you'll see we've got some good examples of those faces here for you guys to take a look at. And there are 6 different results, 1 per die. And so let's look at them. The first is energy cubes. Energy cubes are going to give you 1-to-1. They're going to give you these green energy tokens. You will hold on to them and you'll use them to buy cards from the shop. We'll take a look at that next and talk more about how purchasing cards works, but this is how you get your currency to buy your cards. Next up, we have the star. That is going to affect your popularity track. Popularity is, of course, one of the ways that you win the game. You'll need to roll 3 of these to start this process. You don't move it 1 to 1. You need 3 stars locked in at the end to move it 1 space. And for every additional star you have, you'd move it 1 additional space towards you, which can be very great. Kind of sliding these down and jumping over here. Next, we have the destruction token. This follows the exact same rules as the popularity token. Again, for 3 of these, you'll move this 1 step towards you, and for every additional, you'll move it 1 more step. Next, we have the explanation point. The explanation point is your special ability. Every character in King of Tokyo Duel has a different special ability, and you'll need explanation points to use that special ability. For instance, our good friend Gigasaur here has an ability where if you have 2 explanation points rolled, it will let you pull either the popularity or the destruction token 1 space for yourself. So that's another way that you could kind of move those items for you. An illustration of a very, very different power would be Cyber Kitty here, who has a very different special ability, which is you can use 2 explanation points to get 2 energy, and if you had an additional one, so 3 total, you would have 4 energy. So it's a great way to make money to get a lot of cool modifications and powers from the card deck. So these are very different and of course play into the asymmetry of the character that you select. Finally, we have kind of the things that do the damage and health of your monster. So first is claws. For every claw damage, you will deal 1 damage to your opponent. So everybody's going to have a health tracker. It's going to start at the maximum health of that character, so 14 in this case for Gigasaur. Every damage that Cyber Kitty would deal to him will reduce his health by 1. So say we had 2 claws, 2 damage, there you go. Conversely, hearts, for every heart you roll, you will heal 1. You'll just tick your health back up. So very simple tug of war stuff, very familiar to classic King of Tokyo. You can never heal more than your max health, even if the dial goes higher. Some characters, as you see, have less health than others. They range from 12 to 15 health in the game. So some characters are just squishier than others, but they make up for it with their special ability to kind of offset that. But you can never heal up to 15, even if you're a 12 health character. You're capped at 12 health, and that's how it works. So again, you'll use these. You'll roll in your dice up to 3 times, lock them in, and you'll use and score the dice doing the things that your dice allow you to do. And you'll continue in this cycle until a player wins the game. The great thing about King of Tokyo Duel is it's relatively simple and easy to teach, as you can see, but the complexity comes into how you strategize to use your special ability and how you strategize to use the cards. So let's go ahead and take a look at the main board and talk about the cards and how they factor into your grand strategy and your asymmetry in the game. Here we have a look at the shop of cards that are going to be available for you to purchase at any given time in a game. There's a deck of energy cards. There's always going to be a store of 3 with the cost for energy in the top left. The rightmost card is always going to cost 1 less energy to purchase, and there are 2 types of cards that you can purchase. There are keep cards that stay with you and give you more asymmetry or passive abilities as you go. For instance, regeneration says that once per turn, when you gain health, you gain an additional health. So just giving you better sustain to make sure you don't get defeated by the combat kind of loss condition there. There are discard cards like Frenzy that when you buy them, they go directly into the discard, but they give you some kind of a one-time ability that's usually very nice. Frenzy is a great example of that. It says take another turn after this one. That's incredible. That, especially in a 2-player game like this, can be the difference between victory or defeat. Now, what's great about this is Frenzy actually only costs 5 energy because of where it's at in the board. Now, say it's my turn, and I realize that I don't have the energy to buy that card, but that is such a good card, I do not want to risk my opponent getting it. Well, you can always, at any time on your turn, once per turn, spend 2 energy to wipe all of those cards, get rid of them, and from right to left, refill the market, and put out 3 new cards entirely, giving me some different options for things to buy, but also making sure maybe my opponent does not buy the super powerful, valuable card I'm afraid he's going to pick up. The last thing that energy cards do in King of Tokyo Duel specifically is they may have buzz token symbols. Now, what does that mean? Those are new words, right? We've not seen those before King of Tokyo Duel. Every card is going to have a symbol. Not every card. Some cards with buzz tokens may have symbols on them, like these 3 here. And those are going to have a corresponding specific buzz token that goes with it. So you'll just match the symbol. So for instance, I bought Moment of Respite here that has the alien token. I'm going to get his buzz token, and I'm going to place it somewhere on the board to modify how the tug of war tracks go for either the popularity or the destruction token. I can place it on my side of the track. Let's say I'm playing over here, and I can place it on my opponent's side of the track on the right if he's playing over here. There are 5 different shapes of buzz tokens. There's 2 twos, one that makes the track have additional nice bonuses, and one that makes the track actually shorter, makes it take less steps. There's a single space token that do various bonuses. There's a 3-tier token that has nice bonuses, and a 3-tier token that actually makes it longer for somebody. So you can, of course, begin to already formulate how those strategies will work. Say, for instance, I got this alien token again. The rule is I have to place it over spaces that I have. So, for instance, I could do something like this on my popularity track, which now means it's a lot quicker for me to get into my spotlight zone with my popularity token, and it saves me a step of movement. So that can be very tactical and valuable there. I could also, if I got this 2-1, this Anubis one here, I could place it in such a way that as my token moves over these spaces, I gain the corresponding bonuses on either of these tracks. I could, of course, do this as well over here. When I move over, the token moves over those spaces, I gain those bonuses. That's wonderful. The single space tokens, of course, also do the exact same thing. When you move over the space, you gain the bonus or do the action. Those are all very handy, very nice. The triple, of course, also does the exact same thing. You place it in such a way that you gain the corresponding bonuses as you move over. The last one that is kind of the mean token is this guy here that actually adds a space to the board, which you would want to put on, of course, your opponent's side of the board most likely, to where it makes it actually take more steps for them to get to their victory condition. Those kind of combination of strategies of how do I shorten my path, extend my opponents, will impact how you want to buy cards, what cards you want to buy, because I might not actually really care too much about the ability on this card, but for 4, if I can actually shorten my path to victory here, it might be the right decision for me in a particular game of King of Tokyo Duel. So all of that adds a really interesting layer, because you're not just buying cards for their asymmetry or their abilities, you're buying cards to impact the state of the battlefield here on the main tug-of-war board, which of course is kind of where most of the victories and defeats are going to happen, is how you position and kind of come out on top here on the board. And I think that adds a really great layer of strategy and contemplative depth to King of Tokyo Duel that the original game did not have in it. And I think it makes it a really fun interactive piece for 2 players.
And that, in a nutshell, is everything that you need to know to have a great time with King of Tokyo Duel. You're prepared now to jump in and have conquest over the town, whether to beat up your opponent, beat them to a pulp, come out on top ruling by popularity or ruling by fear through the destruction track. You can really do whatever you want to do in this game to win, but balancing those victory conditions is key to coming out as the top monster in King of Tokyo Duel. So, I really enjoyed this game. I'm so glad IELLO gave us a chance to look at it. King of Tokyo Duel, or King of Tokyo, excuse me, was one of the games that really got me into deeper gaming, right? I think it's a common gateway game, especially if you were around during that era where it was first introduced. It is effectively nerdy Yahtzee, right? Very much like Dice Throne, this idea of I'm going to chuck some dice, I'm going to score those dice and do something with them. And it just elevated a game that Yahtzee, that I grew up with as a child that I love, and took it to just that next level. And it did help me fall in love more and more with board gaming. And so it has a special place in my heart personally. Again, very pleased with what they've done for Duel. I say this a lot. I'm a huge fan of 2-player games, from Rebellion to War Chest to Kelp to War of the Worlds. Like, there are so many amazing 2-player games, and I think the thing that makes a 2-player game shine, just really shine, is the balance of the interaction between 2 opponents, right? Because it's not, you can't, with big player games, you can always have balance go to the table, right? Someone will balance you out in Ankh if there's 6 of you and, whatever. There's always going to be that with a larger player count. With Duel, with any 2-player games, it's always got to be super balanced, super fair. Every interaction has to be very level for the game to feel interesting and engaging, and not just be I just meta this particular strategy and I just blow you out of the water every time. Every combo has to be fair and correct, and I just think that shines through here. King of Tokyo was a great game, is a great game. I enjoy it still. I think it's a great game. Somebody said, hey, Tyler, do you want to play that? I would certainly sit down and play it. Duel really takes King of Tokyo to the next level, in the sense of it's not just a brawl trying to get in the middle to maybe get a victory point occasionally here or there. Like, there's great tactics about, okay, I want to hurt you, because if I can hurt you, that's a way to win. I can keep the pressure on. Your dice have to start being allocated to hearts instead of other things. That's important. But I really want to get those tracks going because I don't want you to just sneak those tracks into those spotlight victories. That's the way that you win the most often, is going to be just kind of edging into those spotlights because there's a lot of threshold there. And if you get far enough in one, you can kind of inch into the other side before your opponent's able to really deal with it. And so it gets really, really risky. And of course, there's a little bit of luck. It's a dice game. There's not a ton of dice mitigation directly in your package in King of Tokyo Duel. So there is some luck to be acknowledged and think about. It's a dice game. Of course, there's luck. But those strategies of how do I kind of edge out these victories by pulling these tokens, I think is really interesting and adds a cool layer of depth. Same with the cards. I said that before, but I love the idea of like buying the card for what it does is really great, but buying the card for the buzz token is actually a valid strategy as well, because those bonuses and things that you can get, especially if it's a highly contested token where you just keep getting it on a token to get a bonus, then it gets pulled off by your opponent, you get it back, you get the bonus again, that's incredible. And you can make a lot of money off of those types of strategies. So where you place those tokens is super important. Again, this is a great game. It's easy to teach. Someone that's 12 could jump in and have a blast with this game, no trouble. But someone who's 33 can jump in and have a blast with this game, no trouble. It's really, really fun. There's a lot of cool elements to this. There's a lot of cool strategy that emerges. It's one of those easy to learn, difficult to master games, which I love. The asymmetry of the various monsters that you can play as is really engaging and fun as well. So top notch here. Again, not a high budget game as far as cost to you. Very fun components, very fun experience. I think that's going to be a lot of blast. If you love King of Tokyo and want something different for just 2 players that's a little bit deeper, Duel is for you. If you've never played King of Tokyo and this is your entry into that franchise, I would also say Duel is a great place to start. It's fun, it's engaging, and it's infinitely replayable because the dice will never roll the same way, right? So huge props to Yellow for what they've made here, thanking them for giving us this review copy. And I hope that it was engaging for you. I hope this helped you learn how the game works, that this was enough that you could jump in and learn to play it straight away. I hope it kind of let you know what's in the box and what to expect if you want to pick this up for yourself. But I want to thank you guys for coming to Meeple Mountain. As always, we appreciate you guys coming and checking out our videos. Let us know in the comments what you thought, what you'd like to see reviewed next. And as always, happy gaming.
Thanks for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out these links to find some other games you might want to bring to the table. This is Tyler Williams, signing off.